When we start, just tell me, okay?
Just tell me when we are ready and I will start.
Can you just let me start to give the introduction to our event? Then I will give you the mic so that you can speak freely, okay?
I did not understand you. What do I need to do?
I will just I will welcome our students.
Okay.
Then I will give you the mic.
Okay, nice. Okay, nice.
Okay. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Codyle Club.
I cannot hear you.
Intriguing topic to develop. To delve into the realm of software development, the .NET framework. Okay, many are unaware of its remarkable capabilities as it empowers developers to create a cutting-edge application for our desktop, web, and mobile platforms. What sets it apart is its ability to run seamlessly on any operator, okay, regardless of whether it's an open source. Without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce our esteemed speaker, Mr. Almir Vok. Let's give him a thunderous round of applause as he takes the stage.
Thank you very much, Mohammed. Thank you for inviting me to speak about .NET MAUI at this great student event. As Mohammed already mentioned, my name is Almir Vuk, and today I will talk about .NET MAUI, which is a platform created by Microsoft in order to provide the developers the platform to create mobile and desktop applications using .NET and C# as a main technology. Before we start, few words about me. I'm Almir Vuk. I'm coming from Bosnia and Herzegovina, and I'm currently living in Sarajevo. I'm Microsoft MVP. That is a title which is Microsoft is giving away to the developers who are working at the community, and they are sharing their knowledge through the conferences and events like this. At my full-time profession, I'm using .NET and C# as a primary tool to create apps both on backend and the mobile. In the previous years, I used the Xamarin for the mobile applications, and now I'm also using Xamarin, but we are making some kind of transition to the .NET MAUI. Currently, I'm working at the Agent Locator company, which is Canadian-based company, which has office in the Sarajevo. Mohammed, you can take a screenshot of this slide just to have to share with my company as well. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you to you all participants for attending this event. I hope you will find something interesting here to listen about and to learn and to play later on. Okay. First of all, before we start with the .NET MAUI explanations, this is currently the development platform which .NET is. Basically, in previous years, Microsoft decided to unify the .NET as a platform and to give the developers the platform which they can use to basically create all the apps which you can imagine. For example, currently using the .NET and C# as a technology, you can create cloud, web, desktop, mobile, some gaming apps. You can work with IoT and artificial intelligence. Basically, whatever you can imagine, you can create using the .NET as a platform. Also, there's a couple of tools you can use there. There is a Visual Studio and Visual Studio for Mac. So basically, if you are Windows or Mac developer, you can use both of these apps or tools to create every app you can imagine, basically, and you can target every platform you can imagine. that whole development scene. Today topic and the main topic which I will try to explain you today is called .NET MAUI. .NET MAUI, as Microsoft is already mentioning, is the most productive way to develop native apps that perform great on any device that runs on Android, iOS, macOS, or Windows from a single code base. This is what you currently have. You can use .NET, you can use C#, you can use that knowledge which you already have basically from the backend, and you can use it to create mobile and desktop apps with single code base. And that is the most beautiful way to create the apps currently using the .NET. Okay, this is a couple of nice slides to show you which platforms are currently targeted. We can see macOS, Windows, iOS, Android, and basically every device you can imagine, you can start developing the apps for them. Couple of slides about .NET MAUI. .NET MAUI unifies the Android, iOS, macOS, and Windows APIs into single API. Currently, what you have here is you can start the Visual Studio, create a new project, and you will get one project which can be built, and you can target different platforms using that single code base. You can write once and run everywhere your apps. That provides you a great developer experience, and also, even though it unifies all of those APIs into one, you can still have the chance to access those deep APIs of the native platforms, which maybe you cannot use from the single code base, but you still have the opportunity to access those APIs which are only accessible through the native platform. So it combines two worlds into the one, and you can use it to create mobile apps. .NET MAUI is basically an interesting topic for developers who want to write cross-platform apps using XAML and C# from the single shared code base. You can share UI layer, so basically you can write your layout once and you can run it a couple of times or on the couple of platforms which you want to target. Also, you can share the code, all the business logics, tests, calls to some API, database implementation, all of those business logic related stuff can be also shared through your app and have app which can be run on the multiple platforms. Okay, what .NET MAUI brings to you? It brings you productive environment. You can maximize the code reuse. This second bullet point is related to write once and run everywhere, basically. Even though this is a cross-platform tool, you can still create native applications with native performance. So what does it mean? You can write it once, and at the end of the day, this is the native applications that can be run on the Android or on the iOS. Also, you have the integration with native platforms, and if you want to use some kind of particular API from some platform, you can still have the possibility to access it also. And it is also part of the big .NET ecosystem. You can use the libraries which you are familiar with. For example, you can use Link, you can use Entity Framework, you can use HTTP client, all those great APIs and libraries. You can use Prism, for example, reactive extensions for .NET. All of those tools which you are familiar with from the backend maybe world, you can use that knowledge and reuse it, creating the mobile app. This is the architecture which you can get. Basically, you have all of your apps which you can target: iOS, Android, macOS, and Windows. Below that, we have this layer of code, which is shared code written once, which can hold your UI resources, some platform-specific features, and all the business logic can be shared across the multiple multiple platforms. And you still have the possibility to write some custom and native code which is specific for these kind of platforms which you are targeting also. Okay, how does it really works? At the top, you have your application code which will be written by you as a developer. Below that, you have the targets or the platforms which your apps wants to be deployed to. Below that, you have Android, iOS, macOS, and Windows as a platform APIs, as a platform SDKs, which you still want to use while developing your applications. And the magic happens between these two. So what can happen here? There is the .NET Runtime. There is that mono implementation which can be used for running this app on the different platforms. There is the .NET BCL base class library. You can still use those libraries provided by the .NET while developing your mobile applications. And on top of that, you have .NET for Android, .NET for iOS, and VUI as a platforms to develop these applications. Maybe for you who are familiar, just a second, okay. Maybe for you who are familiar with using Xamarin, those Xamarin traditional libraries such as Xamarin traditional for iOS and Android, these are those two who are packed now into these names and libraries. And on top of that, you still get your .NET MAUI as a primary platform which you can use. You are writing your application code on top of the .NET MAUI as a library, and below it you have as a support these parts of the .NET which are now part as our application framework. Okay, just to talk a little bit about myself, this is a fun fact. I'm first open source contributor which written the PR for .NET MAUI when Xamarin migration started, and when .NET MAUI was announced, community and Xamarin team started with the migration of Xamarin parts to the .NET MAUI, and my pull request handler for entry is text enabled. It was the first community merged PR by the community. This is something which I'm really proud of. This was like 2 years ago, I think. Okay, what you will get when using a .NET MAUI? You will get similar what you had with the .NET, with the Xamarin Forms. You will get 40 pages, layouts, controls, everything which is available for you, and everything what you need to build some kind of mobile applications in order to fulfill the requirements by your clients. You still getting the two-way data binding MVVM framework is there, except is there. You can have the APIs for navigation, visual state, animations, dependency service is still there. There is .NET MAUI is now fully part of the Microsoft ecosystem, so you have CI/CD support when using Azure DevOps, and many more features are provided there in order to provide you the full platform for creating mobile and desktop applications. These are some of the controls you can use. These are the controls available in the Xamarin Forms as well, but in the .NET MAUI you will get some additional ones, and also Microsoft is always working on the performance and optimization of those controls. These are all native applications which are currently available across the platforms you are currently targeting for your application. For example, if we take a look at this slide, on the iOS, this control would be called UI activity indicator. On the Android, this is a progress bar. On the .NET MAUI, we are calling this control activity indicator, and while you are using it, you are still accessing the native controls which are provided by those operating systems and platforms. Similar thing to the slider and all other controls which are available to you to develop application. Sorry. How do you how do you write code in the .NET MAUI? Writing code remained the same as you had in the Xamarin forms. You can write your applications using XAML, C#, and MVVM. And for example, in this part of the code, we have stack layout, which is basically the layout which will hold different controls and arrange them from the top to the bottom. And we have one label which is saying the text welcome to .NET MAUI, and below it we have just a basic button with the click command. In the code behind or in your view model, you can have the command implementation of it and the execute command click, which will be executed whenever some users clicks on this button. So you can see this connection and binding via MVVM pattern to your view model or code behind. And also we are here changing the state of the count variable, and the change is automatically generated, or the UI is refreshed whenever these controls or properties are changed. So MVVM pattern, XAML, and C# stay the same like we had in the Xamarin forms. This is currently what we are getting. I already mentioned you that we are using native SDKs as a platforms in order to deliver those applications. You are developing it using .NET MAUI. Currently as a platform, we are using .NET 6 or .NET 7, and below that we are accessing the SDKs and the native platforms for those operating systems. These are some of the pages and layouts which are available, so you can use any of these in order to deliver the requirements which you have from your clients in order to make the mobile app as friendly as possible. You can use any of these layouts or controls in order to fulfill those requirements as well. You have also rich styling options using themes and controlling those using static and dynamic styles using XAML or CSS. We also have Visual State Manager, which we can be used to cover some of the states which some controls can have. Also, we can define custom fonts and font icons. These are pretty much the basic stuff which you can use, but it is important to mention it that implementing all those things it has been never easier than today with the .NET MAUI. And also we can work with the images, many formats, including the SVG, in order to style our app. What is the main difference between Xamarin Forms and .NET MAUI? And that is the project system improvements. Now, currently, this is the basic Hello World app which you can create using Xamarin Forms in the past. So you would get one solution and 3 projects. One code core projects, and in these examples we are targeting Android and iOS, and you would get 2 additional projects with those platforms, and this project core one would reference Android and iOS. And this was in the Xamarin Forms. This is something which we used a couple of years ago. Now, using the .NET MAUI, the biggest improvement is to use single project, and we are now getting one solution, one project. Inside of it we have this folder, platform, resources, and all additional classes and folders which you need to import and to use. When we expand these under the platforms folder, we are getting the folders for specific platforms which we are targeting, and custom implementation for some of the features we want to implement. In this example, we are using Bluetooth adapter which provides custom implementation for Android, iOS, and Windows. So basically, if you want to access some of the native APIs which are not available in the .NET MAUI, you can also use those native APIs and put your implementations in the platform's specific folders. The same thing happens with the resources. We are not storing them in the specific platform. We are now holding it in one folder or project, or whenever you want to name it. Here are the fonts and the images, and basically they are available across many platforms which we are targeting there. When running the application, basically starting the app, you would have this selector, and if you are targeting multiple platforms, you will get multiple simulators or devices for the platforms you are targeting. Here we are having Android emulator and iOS simulators because our app is running in the Visual Studio for Mac as an environment, and we are targeting iOS and the Android as a platform there. Faster development. This is something which is really important for us as a developers to have productivity ready environment where we can write the apps without experiencing any issues while coding. Visual Studio 2022 is the main tool for developing these applications, and also we are having the Visual Studio for Mac, which is our tool for developing apps and writing the apps inside of Visual Studio for Mac and Mac OS as a platform. Just a second. Okay. So whenever you are using Windows or Mac OS as your primary device or machine, you have both full Visual Studio for Windows and Visual Studio for Mac, and they are ready for .NET MAUI as a platform which you can use to develop the apps. Also, there is some of these features which are available. For example, there is this Xamarin live preview. On this demo, you can see that we are changing the content of the label and the background color of the frame. On the right side, on this pane called Xamarin Live Preview, we are getting the preview of our changes in the real time. There is also something called hot restart. I will just mute this one, and you can see here what is going on. If you are, I'll just pause it on 1 second. If you are using the Windows as a primary machine for you to develop applications, and you are, for example, having iOS device, in the past it was not possible for you to connect your iOS, for example, iPhone, to the Windows machine and running that app on that iOS device. Currently, with something called hot restart, Microsoft decided to implement this. This is called hot restart, and you can basically connect your iPhone to your Windows machine, and you can run your application, iOS application, on your iOS device. The one disadvantage of this, or not disadvantage, but the, how do you say that? The main thing which you want to have that is Apple Store account, and everything else. You need to device Apple developer account, and you can run the apps on your iPhone through the Windows machine. Here is the small preview of this. You need to set up hot restart using Apple ID and the store account. And later on, in the few seconds, we will see a running application on our iPhone through the Windows machine. Okay, remote iOS simulator is still here. If you are Xamarin developer in the past, you already are familiar with the remote iOS simulator. This is the feature where you are connecting to your local or remote Mac machine, and you can run your apps through the remote iOS simulator, which will be available on your Windows machine. So Microsoft and .NET team are working hardly for you to have all these productivity features at one place. Currently, I was saying to you that you can share UI, business logic, layouts, controls. You can write them once and run it on the different platforms. But if you want to access some of the native API features, for example, Siri Kit, Core ML inside of iOS native platforms, you can also access it through the .NET MAUI. There is still a possibility for you to work with these platform-specific features along the way. Also, if you want to work with some Android-specific functions like a fingerprint, Bluetooth, geolocation, everything is available for you if you want to write some custom code. And also, the Microsoft is introducing something called Xamarin Essentials, where you can basically use current implementations written by Microsoft and open source community. And for example, if you want to work with the phone dialer, with the gyroscope, with the battery, with the connectivity, you can use Xamarin Essentials or .NET MAUI Essentials to access these cross-platform APIs. This is the small example how to use geolocation inside of .NET MAUI with only one code available. Also, performance-wise, everything stayed the same as we had on the Xamarin. .NET MAUI is built on the trusted technology. For iOS, we are using ahead of time compilation on the .NET. For Android, we are using just-in-time and ahead of time compilations for delivering the best experience and the best optimization of your apps to run it on multiple platforms as well. Building elements. What are the building elements of the .NET MAUI? The main class and the central class of your app would be MAUI program and the create MAUI app method. There you can specify this builder instance of the create builder method, and you can configure some kind of fonts. The dependency injection is available by the default in the .NET MAUI. On these examples here, you can see that we are specifying some of the singleton instances or implementations of different view models or services. So we have the dependency injection available through the default implementation. Also, we have platforms and resource folders. This is something which I mentioned to you a few slides ago. You can basically have the one folder, and all of your custom code for different platforms is available there also. There is also resources with the fonts, images, and all those graphical things which you want to share across the multiple platforms. This is how it looks. Regarding those platform-specific files like Android manifest, info playlist, app delegate, main activity, those are still available and we need them. And they are available through these platforms folder and specific platforms implementations of it. This example is the example of dependency injection resolving the service IMAP, which was registered in that MAUI program class in the create MAUI program method. This is here a constructor resolving of that service inside of your view model constructor. Also, we have community tool integrations. For example, if you are using community toolkit, you can use observable property or relay command, and so with the power of source generators from the .NET 6, you will not need to write that boilerplate code. For example, using this observable property, you will have the full property and the MVVM observable property implementations for your properties there also. Navigation is written similar like we have in the Prism platform. You can use this URI based navigation. Here we are using the shell as a as a main navigation, and we are on the upper side specifying that we want to navigate to the details page, and we are passing some of the parameters to the next page. Inside of the details view model, we have that query property called monkey, and it will map that navigation parameter to the property in the destination view model. MVVM and XAML are still here. For those who are familiar with the XAML and MVVM, on this example you can see the button control with the familiar properties. We are using binding two-way data. Data binding is also available. We are binding to some of the properties inside of view model. We are styling it with the standard styles, and basically the knowledge which you had from the, for example, Xamarin Forms or Windows Forms or Windows Phone in the past, VPF, all that XAML knowledge is still applicable with some minor changes and some new infos to learn, but you can use XAML knowledge to develop .NET MAUI applications also. Writing styles is basically the same. We are using same conventions and same property and classes using XAML. Shell is also here. Shell is the new way of writing your navigation and architecting your apps. You can use Shell as for developing the apps and styling. In this example, we have the main navigations using layout item, which is the menu on the left side. .NET MAUI inside of app class, we still have application lifecycle methods like onStart, onSleep, onResume, which can be used in order to catch some of these events when your app starts, when goes to sleep, and when it's resumed. So you can still hook to these methods as well. Also, the window or our main page still has this Windows life cycles, which we can use to hook on these states as well. Something which is new to the .NET MAUI and something which we didn't have in the Xamarin Forms is multi-window support. Now, while developing the applications with the .NET MAUI on the platforms which are supporting this feature, you can use a multi-window as well. In this example, we are opening the second window, and for example, if you are running your app as a desktop application on macOS, you can run it and you will have two window app available. The central part of our app is the pages, and the content page is the base page for developing the layouts, and we are placing the controls on it. Layout is the concept of layouts is also available. We have different types of it. We have grid, stack layout, relative layout, flex layout, etc. We can organize our controls in many ways in order to make our apps and meet the requirements. Providing behavior. Also, we have these methods and this way of working with the controls either through XAML or through the C# code. In this example, we are hooking or subscribing to the event called text change. In this part of the code, we will have the body which will be executed every time when text changes on this entry control. We have controls are now exposing properties to alter visualization, and controls exposing events to provide interactive behavior for us as a developers to hook on these some events in order to deliver best experience ever for our users and our mobile apps users. .NET MAUI ecosystem and community work is still supported, and it will be there will be more support in the future. Core community packages are ready, and we will get many more in the future. These are some of the community core packages which community is working on. They are porting some of the libraries from the Xamarin Forms in order for us to use it in the .NET MAUI as well. Prism library, for those who are familiar with the Prism library, Prism is also working on the version for .NET MAUI as well. The interesting project inside of the .NET MAUI is called Comet. You can find it on the GitHub. It's open source community project, and the main idea behind it is to build the applications in the MVU style of it, similar like a Flutter do. So this is still in the experimental and in the preview phase, so I will not talk about it more, but you can find it on the GitHub and explore more if this is something which is interesting to you. If you are if you are looking for some sample app which you can follow and see the implementation of it, you can find it on the GitHub under the Microsoft .NET Podcast. This is the app which is developed using .NET MAUI, and we have different platforms targeted there. We have Windows, macOS, Android, and iOS as a platforms, and you can explore the code and see what Microsoft did with this code and how you can maybe use this as an example for your next applications. To make some summary, .NET MAUI is a cross-platform, write once, run everywhere UI application, a platform which you can use to build just one .NET MAUI app and run it on the multiple platforms without any further modification. You can the most important part here is that you are using .NET and C# and you are still writing the native apps. Same as we had for the Xamarin Forms, at the end of the day, .NET MAUI apps are native apps. You can build functional, performance, and security advantage mobile applications which has advantage over the web apps. You can still use the entire .NET ecosystem to build .NET MAUI apps, and these includes your favorite Nugget packages and existing still skills which you as a .NET developer have. Also, there is some experimental projects using the Blazor. Not sure if somebody of you are experienced with the Blazor. You can use it still to write and to combine it with the .NET MAUI, and that is something which you can also explore there. You can basically combine some of the parts of your Blazor app inside the .NET MAUI mobile app. If there, I will go through some frequently asked questions, and maybe if you have some kind of questions, you can ask me. Currently, there is a question: should I use Xamarin Forms now or wait for the .NET MAUI? There is answer to this. .NET, you need to analyze your requirements, but you also need to know that Xamarin Forms support will stop in the May next year. So even though this slide says Xamarin Forms, your project will upgrade to the .NET MAUI, you need still to analyze if everything in the .NET MAUI is available for you to develop that applications. .NET MAUI is getting update every month basically, and it is becoming even better and more stable. If you want really stable platform, you can use Xamarin Forms, but my recommendation for you is to look for the .NET MAUI and to invest the time of it, because Xamarin Forms and support will be at the May next year. Here is that bullet point. Xamarin support will end on May 1st, 2024 for all Xamarin SDKs. So if you have Xamarin Forms currently project, nice, but you need to look for the upgrades for the .NET MAUI. Migration is available on this link. I can share you this presentation after the session, and you can take a look at these links also. Will third-party libraries continue to work? Yes. Basically, they need to target the .NET 6 at the minimum, and they will be ready for you to use it on the .NET MAUI. Will .NET MAUI run on the Linux? No, currently there is no feature on the roadmap for Microsoft to target the Linux. There is some kind of unofficial backend implementation, but .NET MAUI is not planning to be available on the Linux. Somebody in the community is also asking for a Tizen. Samsung and Tizen are working on their part of the .NET MAUI, so there is no official support from the Microsoft, but maybe Tizen team will make the implementation of .NET MAUI as well. XAML is the same as you are using the Xamarin Forms with little changes which you need to work. How to start install Visual Studio 2022 even though you are using .NET MAUI, Visual Studio for Mac or Visual Studio, there is a workload called .NET Multi-Platform API Development. You need to install it and you will be ready. My recommendation for you, even though if you are not familiar with the mobile apps or development using Xamarin or any other platforms, there is a really nice course available for free on the Microsoft Learn, and you can learn more about it and play with the .NET MAUI on the Microsoft Learn platform as well. Samples, if you want to learn more about it and see the code, they are available on the .NET repository under the MAUI samples. Just 2 slides and we are done, where you can follow the progress. The main and the home for .NET MAUI is currently on the .NET repository, and you can find MAUI there, follow the progress, see the pull requests, issues, everything which is available for you to follow, and you can find it there and learn more about it. If there is any questions, I am really happy to answer them. If no, I am very thankful for you for listening to me for 45 minutes. I hope you enjoyed this session, and I hope you learned something new and heard something new about .NET MAUI.
Thank you, Mr. Amir. It was really a very amazing information to acquire and to gain from Microsoft MVP like you. Our viewers reached to about 170, so that's something to be proud of, that many people wants to hear you and wants to hear you talk about the .NET framework because it's important for our future as well. We are still a rising generation.
How many participants did we have?
Around, right now I'm not sure, but around 10 minutes ago there were 170. So yeah.
Nice.
It's very good, yeah.
I'm very happy. Are we still live?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for all the participants who are listening to this. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. If not, you can reach out to me via email. Find me on the Twitter, on my blog, whenever you want. I'm here to answer all of your questions, and you can add me on the LinkedIn also.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it, and we really appreciate your time that you gave us.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. You're most pleasure. So, Codyle students, club members, in the summer we will be having another event to do, and this event will be much larger than this one. So stay tuned on our website. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for attending our beautiful event with Mr. Amir Rook.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Are we still live?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm not seeing it. I'm just seeing our meet. Okay.